Let's take a look at how to customize the charts and graphs that you've added into a spreadsheet. You can do this after the fact that you've already added a chart or graph, or you can do it while you are inserting the chart or graph. First, let's talk about a few things now that we have these two charts inserted into our spreadsheet. Right now, you can see that both of them, they're not really in the best position. The first one's overlapping, the page is red, and it's also overlapping my data, so I can't see. You can easily move your charts by clicking them and dragging them into a blank area. If you need to insert more columns to do that, you can highlight them and insert additional. You can also resize a chart by clicking on it and then using these guides to minimize. And it's always best to drag from the corner so you can kind of keep things to scale. To delete a chart, you can click on it and you can press the delete button, or click on it and use these menu of options to delete the chart. Move this up to the top. Another skill that is helpful to know is how to set a theme for your spreadsheet and your charts, and you can do that in the format section. The first option in the format tab is theme, and you can actually pick a custom color scheme for your charts and graphs. So you can find one below, or you can customize your own if you wanted to do school colors or other colors that might make some more sense with your data. All right, I'm going to leave mine as is. All right, in terms of editing your chart, the simplest way to do that is to click on it and use the menu of options and choose Edit Chart. You'll typically see two tabs, the ability to set up and then customize. Setting up is where you pick your chart type as well as the range of data. So I do believe that the pie chart is the most appropriate way to display this particular data. So I'm going to leave that, but let's say that I wanted to, instead of represent the types of books that the student was reading, I wanted to represent visually the places that the student was reading about. So I'm just going to update the range now so that it is a graphic of column E, which is the cities or the settings in the book. Right. If you were doing a line graph or you wanted to switch what data was on what axis, if you did have a line graph, you could click on switch rows and columns, but that doesn't really make sense here. But I did want you to see that you could do that if you wanted to flip-flop the X and the Y axis in a line or a bar chart. Right. It also knows that row 1 is a header, so it's not including this in my data. Let me go to customize now. And you have a lot of different options, and there's really no right way to customize your graphic. I think the best thing is using the whole poke a stick at it ideology, where you're going to try things out, see the impact of those changes, and decide if you want to keep them or not. Okay, exploring is always the best way usually to learn about a feature. So let's just look at a few of these. Okay, the chart style, I have a background color of white. I could give this a lighter gray background if I wanted to. I could give it a border. I could also make it 3D. So I'm going to keep it like this. As for the pie chart, right now my slices are not labeled. Okay, they are labeled here. There's a legend. But if I did want the percentage to be displayed on the actual pie slice, I could give the slice a label. And what's important to know here is that each chart you insert will have different options listed here. So I can't explain all of them, otherwise we'd be here all day probably longer. Right. As for the pie slice, I happen to have 6 pie slices here, so I would need to do this for each one. If I wanted to change the colors for the pie slices, I could do that. So I could do rainbow colors. You kind of see the point here. And in terms of chart access and title, my chart title is here. But another quick way to change the chart title, rather than having to find this option in the customization tab, is to just double click the chart title that you see and just edit it directly. So you can update the font color and the font style. And then finally, the legend. Okay, when I hover over these, this is the legend. Let's say that these are looking a little bit tiny. I want to make them a little bit larger and go ahead and increase the size and make them bold. Right? So those are some quick ways to edit your charts and graphs and customize them so that they look the way you want. In the next video, we'll take a look at some of the things that you can do with a chart and graph once it's created.